There are three main types such as infantry, cavalry, and ranged. Now, a lot of you probably want cavalry, what? Cavalry fight on horseback. Those don't exist anymore. What they do, it's called tanks. They serve essentially the exact same purpose. Now, each one's purpose we'll get into in a moment. But the second one I want to discuss really quickly is ranged. Now, a lot of people are going to go, well, everything's ranged today. Well, what I mean by range is, they can fight farther than anyone else can, and that, in modern terms, would be the artillery, who fought from far away, unlike anyone else. Now, each one serves a different main purpose. Cavalry are essentially only good truly on attacking something. Cavalry cannot really hold a castle, they cannot hold a trench line exactly very well. Artillery is best on defense or in supporting some other attack. They cannot attack themselves since they're largely defenseless when it comes to a close-in fight. But if it comes to supporting someone else, they are the best. And then you have the infantry, who they aren't particularly good at any single thing, but they're the best overall. Infantry are the ones who can hold a castle. Infantry are the ones who can hold a trench better. So you essentially have cavalry, who attacks, artillery, which supports, and infantry, who largely defends or supports on the attack. So throughout history, they've always been the same. Infantry throughout most of history have been armed with a spear, and even to this day, infantry are armed with a bayonet, which essentially makes their rifle a spear. Because swords may look all fancy and nice, but when it comes down to it, stabby is much easier than a bunch of fancy sword drills. When it comes to using a spear, it's essentially stab and do not get stabbed. They also, throughout most history, had a shield. Now, of course, with modern warfare with firearms, that's changed. Now, cavalry, throughout history, have generally been of higher status, of higher reward, or higher regard. These, at first, they weren't actually on horseback. They were being pulled by chariots because they didn't have full-sized horses, but they had essentially just little ponies and mules and such. And throughout history, they've served the same purpose. They break the enemy lines along with their morale. Because if you're a soldier in the Middle Ages and you're just some little peasant with a spear and a shield, and you see suddenly this wall of armored cavalry coming at you, armor glistening in the sun, you're probably going to go, maybe run away. Well, actually, probably be like, panic run. And even today, if a bunch of poorly trained Middle Eastern soldiers or ill-trained soldiers pretty much anywhere go up against a normal, well-disciplined army, they're going to lose, especially if the tanks start just rolling in on entrenched position. They essentially so tanks or cavalry, and even today, tank divisions are called cavalry divisions. And finally, you have artillery. Artillery in the ancient world consisted of archers, slingers, javelin throwers. They took out the enemy and whittled them down, but they can't fight by themselves generally. Occasionally there'll be a bit of an exception, like at Agincourt, where they did fight in melee and at range. But most of the time, they're in the back or on the flank supporting the main attack by either the cavalry or the infantry. And so you get this sort of triangle of combat where each one can defeat the other in a certain way. Now cavalry or tanks will generally break infantry, but if the infantry is well disciplined, let me give you an old example. The Scots were able to win Bannockburn because they had pikes and were willing and were very disciplined and well-trained soldiers, versus the British knights, who were very arrogant and thought, oh, they just won away, like most infantry did, but they didn't. So many knights died, or at least their horses were just murdered, and they barely escaped with their lives. On the other hand, cavalry, of course, can just run down certain infantry. Now, a lot of cavalry can't, in the ancient world, couldn't just hunt down main infantry because they could still get skewered if they had any level of actual proper training. But if it was, say, run down running enemies to try to take prisoners or kill them, then they were great at that. Or if it was, just run at them and see, and if they don't break, well, then just run away. That's your cavalry. You can move. You can afford to leave. And of course, there's always like different versions and combinations. There are horse archers who are both range and cavalry, and of course there are marines who are like infantry, but they fight from the sea. Or you have mechanized artillery, which is essentially a tank that can shoot from far away. But these are still the three basics of it. Now, infantry versus ranged, that's a different matter. The infantry have to close in. They can't just stand there and get shot at. If the range is able to stay away, either just holding down the infantry through sheer firepower by being able to retreat and fire, or then they can win. And of course, artillery versus cavalry, it depends a lot. In some situations, you get a complete rout of archers by a cavalry. But in other cases, you get like Agincourt, where the French knights were completely slaughtered by British longbowmen. So it is very dependent on situations, leadership, equipment, morale. But those are your three basic units throughout